what is Pebblecore? It is literal rock music.
It's literal rock music.
Literal rock
Okay.
music, yeah. But it's an RPG about rock music, and you use
Okay.
pebbles. It got us to thinking about something that I guess we should probably do. I guess we should probably do a crit think about. Uh,
Sure.
let's
Why
say
not?
let's say it's a crit think, which is how do smaller projects survive on the crowdfunding platforms? Um, because the thing that we did touch on a little bit in that first segment is that Monty Cook Games, MCDM, have already well established fan bases, communities, and money to some degree to work on the advertising. They've been in the industry. They're pretty well established entities that are able to come in and do a crowdfunding campaign successfully. And one of the reasons is because they do have the ability to and the knowledge of how to do the funding or to do the advertising, and also they have the built-in fan base. So the
Right.
the question is that let's say you're a smaller designer, a developer that doesn't have those resources.
You
Uh,
mean I'm not worth $1 million
uh,
personally?
if you were worth $1 million, Alex, would you just sing uh, that bare naked lady song all over the place?
No, I'd never sing it.
You wouldn't just want to start singing if I had $1 million, you know?
Well, I would have $1 million.
Oh, fair enough. You wouldn't have to. Yeah. Thanks for throwing off my train of
You're
thought
welcome.
there. I appreciate it. But since the Kickstarter world and really just crowdfunding as a general source, maybe we can discuss that a little bit more. Is there's a lot of bandwidth that goes out with these large projects that seem to kind of like overshadow
Oh yeah.
some of the smaller ones that aren't necessarily bad or anything. They're just they don't have a lot of resources to throw around. What could you do to kind of get yourself out there? And
You have to do a lot more actively. I know some of these bigger projects can afford like actual marketing, for instance.
right.
Or if you are an established personality who has your own YouTube channel
Mm-hmm.
with how many followers?
Oh, I think Colville has like 600,000
Yeah,
subscribers.
that's a lot. That's a
Five,
lot
something.
of followers. And followers, for instance, or subscribers, is only part of it. A lot of traffic on YouTube is not even subscribers.
Yeah, yeah.
So you figure those videos are getting multiple million views,
Mm.
I assume.
Oh yeah.
I've never watched any of his stuff, so
Right. Um, the thing is that I think a lot of people, when they say, "Hey, I'll put out a Kickstarter," and then wonder why they don't get any funding for it, they don't realize the amount of time that you have to put into it to start. Um,
yeah,
and as I happen to be going through the Flee Immortals, okay, that's the last time Kickstarter.
thanks.
Uh, I look down toward recommended, because this is always a good place to kind of get your name out there, because if you have a similar project to something that's in the space, it would probably be pretty useful for you. And so I see like 4 recommended pieces. These do happen to all be D&D 5e projects, which makes sense considering that it is a 5e project that we're jumping off of. But then again, all of these are also like very well funded, like the funded in 15 minutes to 6 hours mark. They're not small projects. Uh,
Right.
Getting out there is very tricky, especially if you're developing for something that isn't an established project like Dungeons and Dragons too.
Right.
And we've talked to a lot of people that have their own RPGs that don't jump off of this system. That's the other thing too, is that the old Gods of Appalachia and Flea Mortals are working off of systems that have already established themselves. You have Cypher and you have D&D. People are already familiar with those. They know what they're getting into with that. You've already sort of done inherent community building just by having the systems that people know and like. So how am I getting out there if I have just a system that doesn't use even a D20? Like, maybe I don't even have a D20. Maybe I have a D5. I have a D5 system.
So you're making up a new dice for your new system.
Exactly. I want
Okay.
the reverse of a D20, a D5. Instead of 5 percentiles, it's 20 percentiles.
All right then.
There you go.
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, we've talked to a lot of people on our last show who are running Kickstarters and launching games, and a lot of that ends up being, a lot of it reaching out and trying to get people to look at your stuff.
Yeah.
You find your podcast, you find your reviews, you get your review copies out. You do the podcast circuit, as it were, colloquially known. Can't say that word right now.
Colloquially? There you
Thanks, my
go.
throat's still a little under the weather from my cold. So you find that stuff. I surmise that you would do as much advertising as you can reasonably afford for your target demographic, like
Yeah.
promoting stuff.
Right.
And then one thing that you can do is like live plays, actual plays. People really enjoy those for some reason. I don't.
Well, yeah, and when you had the ability to just go to game stores, which are less and less prevalent these days, but when you had a local game store and you could start from a very small cluster of people playing your game, and taking it there and saying, hey, you want to try this? We had several people that were on the show previously that talked about doing that, going to the libraries, the game stores, stuff like that, and actually just running the game for people. One, it helps with playtesting, which is always good, and for feedback, because feedback is going to be very useful, but also just the general notion that you have to get people involved.
Right.
And know what your thing is well ahead of time.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's generally for tabletop is you're not going to be going to Kickstarter with going, hey, we've got this idea for a game. It's pretty much, hey, we've got this game.
It's done. Yeah.
It's pretty much done.
Right. That's the other thing that you see with a lot of unsuccessful Kickstarters is that whatever they took for a time frame between when they started and when they went to Kickstarter, they probably needed to double it. There was, I'm trying to think what the time frame was for so many of the people that have been on. Usually they talk about like a year or two, really from initial concept to getting out there. But you pretty much have to have, one, a finished product, but then two, you have to have a community already that is waiting for the thing to be on Kickstarter, because Kickstarter's not going to promote it for you.
Not really.
No, they don't really do that. They provide the platform for you to do the crowdfunding, but they don't do much in the way of promotion unless you end up on the recommended tabs or something like that, because the keywords happen to match. I don't know of a lot of crowdfunding places like Indiegogo or any of those that do much in the way of partnerships for smaller creators. They might do something with larger outlets, because they're larger outlets and they bring traffic to the website. But to do it for smaller ones, you can always try to reach out and see what they have for, services or help, but you can't really rely on them being the way to get your thing noticed.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's larger projects help bring people to the site,
Yeah,
but those larger projects definitely overshadow those small projects
yeah,
where you've got your avatar, RPG,
yeah,
and where you've got these two now. It's like, wow, they bring a lot of eyes and a lot of attention to the website, but let's be honest, if you're looking on the website for Avatar, The Last Airbender RPG, are you going to stick around and find another RPG? Do you have time to invest in potentially playing another RPG brand new?
that's another important point to make. There is the general idea that when we talk about businesses, there's the idea that there are certain businesses that are sort of insulated, i.e., people go specifically to this place. They're not shopping around. And that's not even in a digital landscape. That happens in like brick and mortar stores as well. Sometimes there are ones that don't really interact with other places. You might say that there's this thing that I set up, and maybe it will bring money into the local economy, but are the people going to do this thing also going to go out to lunch at one of the restaurants? Are they gonna go and do shopping around in town? There are some places where that's just not going to happen. The one that was up this way that they were worried about was the racetrack, and there was going to be like a, well, there I say there is
Mhm.
a wilderness. There is like the Appalachian sort of mountain trail racetrack, and the concern was that you were going to just have people come up with like their cars, the big fancy cars, and want to just run around the racetrack and then go home. And there wasn't really going to be any synergy with any of the other things that were going on in town, any of the other, restaurants or craft stores or anything like that, because it's not the same market. Uh,
Right.
and so when you get onto a Kickstarter, you have to ask yourself, like, yeah, where are they going for this? And how do I promote it? Like, what are your keywords, and what would, if people are going on there for one thing instead of another, like, what are they going on for? Um,
Yeah.
as I was looking through the recommended tab for Old Gods of Appalachia, I noticed that more 5e stuff even comes up.
Because 5e is the most popular, so imagine being a system that is not well connected to 5e. Your own brand new system and not a well known name.
Yeah, and the thing is, I saw one on here that I saw a couple, but I saw one that I said, "Wait, that I don't think that's D&D related." Called Tokyo Otherscape, which is a mythic cyberpunk RPG. Great,
Okay.
great tag words there. Mythic cyberpunk. People are going to be looking for that. Know how to market and to and to sell your game. That's something people are interested. And it funded in 38 minutes, so it did very well. And I was like,
Nice.
oh, it's not related to 5e. And then I was like, wait, powered by City of Mist.
Oh,
That would probably be the reason. City of Mist also incredibly popular in the space.
right.
Yeah, it's tough because I think not only with the individual projects and large creators, but also the fact that the market share for RPGs as a general framework is very much striated to a handful of games that the majority of the population are just used to and play. It's the Vampire the Masquerade, it's your Dungeons and Dragons, City of Mist, Call of Cthulhu, all of those.
A lot of big names.
Big names and a lot of big developers and creators in that space that also make content for them. And so they can bring that audience in, and it kind of reinforces, as a feedback loop, that funding. it's hard when you are small, and unfortunately, the most I can really suggest is that you do have an active community, that you do give yourself plenty of space before you go to Kickstarter, and that you're able to know how digital marketing works, because we're not good at it. I can tell you that much.
No.
We're
What,
bad at
us
it.
personally, we're terrible at it.
We're terrible at it. Yeah.
But that's fine. We're here to have fun. Ish.
Are we? I wonder.
I don't know. Some days I'm curious.
Are we doing this for fun? Nah, who knows anymore. The other one that I had pulled up, I'm just looking at this real quick because I'm just wondering if this is actually. Oh well, this might actually be based on a project, but there was another one called Soulburner RPG, which was a scorched post-death exploration. Standalone.
All right then.
Standalone bridge between, but again, actually, there is apparently a property that this is based. It's a standalone bridge between Morkborg and Necronautilus TTRPGs.
I've heard of Morkborg, I think.
Yeah. So,
Maybe it sounds familiar. Could just be an orc thing.
yeah. But granted, and I think this also gives us a good insight, is that their goal was very low. It was 2,500 is what they needed to make. So they did fund in 4 hours, but and they're doing very well. They're at over 8,000, but they were able to make their goal very, very low in order to hit that. If they were trying to get the
600K,
the 600K that they needed for Flea Mortals, this would not get funded.
No, not even close.
No, and I don't think anything they could have done would have changed that.
Get Matt Colville to shill your game for you.
That would be something. Yeah, get Matt Mercer to come in and say that hey, Vox Machina would have liked this. Hey,
just gotta go in there and do the Burger King style guerrilla marketing.
Yeah. So here's what we'll try, because this is a crit thing, so we've got to do a little bit of critical thinking involved in here.
Oh boy. Oh no.
So, okay, we've got our project. We're going to make a widget project, just a random one. It's gonna be called Pebblecore, the RPG. It's an RPG.
Sounds like a music genre.
It is. It is. It is a what is that? What is Pebblecore? It is literal rock music.
It's literal rock music.
Literal rock music. Yeah. But it's an RPG about rock music, and you use pebbles in order to they're like fashion pebbles that you use. You throw out the pebbles, and it determines how good your song is, and that's how you create a literal rock opera. So
great. So Green Day would be proud.
Yes, exactly. Roll Pebble game, and so we get to do this wonderful rock opera with Pebblecore. So how are we getting it out there? How are we getting people involved in this? Do I have to just take like random pebbles and just put them places like it's an ARPG or
No, we gotta throw rocks through people's windows with notes that have the QR code on them.
I think that's going to cost us more money than the
No, we just get some kids to do it.
Just getting kids to have the liability of the Pebblecore.
Yeah. It's like, listen, we got nothing to do with that. Sorry about your window.
Yeah, okay. We don't know what it is, but hey, while you're at it, thanks, little old lady. Here's a QR code. I know you know how to scan those. Let's just give them that to work with. Okay, that's a terrible idea. Let's not do that.
I tried, man. I tried.
We tried. It was the best thing.
You'd hit the news cycle. They'd post your QR code in their articles.
Oh yeah.
and you'd get so many hits.
You know, yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea because you could get viral marketing going if you could make something good enough to hit the news. You just have a pile. Ooh, you have a pile of your pebbles, your
Yeah.
stone washed pebbles, and you just put
Okay.
yeah, and you have symbols on them. Okay, just a random maybe it is the QR code, but you just stamp the QR code on a bunch of the pebbles, right? And you put them in the center of a town. You just like drop a bunch of them like in the center of like a roundabout in town. Just
So what
drop a
you're
ton of
saying
them.
is we need to make a pebble monolith?
We need to make a pebble monolith just out of the blue in some town, one of the big hubs. You put it there, and then everybody's going to be asking questions about like, what is this? What is it? Where do I go? And we've got to do like all of the tricks from like the ARPGs, and we'll make it like a scavenger hunt, and they have to figure out what's going on, and it eventually leads to information about Pebblecore, and that will tell them that it's coming to Kickstarter in in 2025.
I hate
That's
it,
how we do it.
thanks.
Well, we're talking about indie rock, but real. There's nothing more indie rock than Pebblecore.
I gotta go.
Anyway, this is a crit thing, so we're gonna pass the question on to you. How would you do a viral marketing campaign for your indie RPG?
Subliminal messages as people sleep.
That would probably work. That would probably work. Or superliminal messages of, hey, fund the thing.
Hidden audio.
Yeah. You
Hidden
could do
audio.
that too. Yeah, hidden audio.
Yeah, let us know what you think. How would you promote something if you were doing that, maybe? Or what do you think about creators, big and small, sharing the same platform?
Yeah, because there is a real concern that there's going to be just so many large projects, or enough large projects, that there's going to be no daylight for anything else to grow.